Okay, we're gonna start the meeting off. Wish everybody to sign the clipboard that's going around. And let's see, need a motion. We're gonna introduce everybody, starting with that end.
Greg Dillon, Strafford.
Hey, Greg.
Cynthia Copeland, Strafford Regional Planning.
Tony McManus, Dover.
Sandy Keynes, Rochester.
Glenn Anderson, New Hampshire DOT.
And Comeau, Brookfield.
Marilyn Barton, Strafford Regional Planning.
Brian Tapscott, Somersworth.
Bill Connor, Somersworth.
Ken Ortman, City of Rochester.
Tom Clark, Dover. Rick Healy, Rochester.
Joy Conley, Northwood.
Wayne Burton, Durham.
Steve Brown, Wakefield.
Thank you. Right. We'll open up with a public hearing to hear and receive comments on 4.2. I'll now open the public hearing for public comment.
That's me.
Okay.
All right. So we received a request from New Hampshire DOT and Federal Highways Administration to look at changing our prospectus so that we had a more flexible time frame for considering amendments to the TIP, to the Transportation Improvement Program, or to the adoption of the TIP. So currently, right now, this is part of our prospectus, and in this section, 7.51, public notice and public hearing on amended plans and TIPs, it says in the first paragraph that the MPO shall schedule a public hearing on any amendment to the plan or TIP which is proposed. And then down in the second paragraph, it says a comment period of, so what that reads right now is a comment period of 30 days, beginning from the date of the hearing notice shall be provided, during which comments may be submitted for consideration. And then it explains how we're going to do that. So the request to us is that we should expand this comment period to include a range, and it would read a comment period of 10 to 30 days, beginning from the date of the hearing notice shall be provided. So that's the change that you're considering today. At the TAC meeting, there were, you should have gotten copies of this, Marilyn.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a sheet that has comments. It says public comment period for amendment to the prospectus received on May 2nd. So you have the comment, and then you have our response. And so in general, and somebody commented an extended public comment period would still be allowed and would provide more flexibility for processing of projects. And somebody said that this was important because there needs to be flexibility. Someone else said, I can't recommend without more information, it's too vague and needs more clarification. Someone else said, I like the flexibility, however, there isn't enough information on how the period is determined. Someone said, high priority projects are in amendments. It's better to have shorter comment periods to move projects along. And all the MPOs in the state, except for SRPC, have shorter comment periods. So right now, we're the only ones with a 30-day comment period. The others have a shorter one or a flexible one, as seen above. And somebody else said projects are vetted at the local level, so changes should be made at the local level, but we need some mechanism to move projects expeditiously, and a shorter time period allows for the flexibility. Someone else said it's good to have flexibility, however, we need to have a renewed effort to get more comments from the public. And the last one was, I'm not sure how fewer days buys us that much more time. I need clarification on the process. So this is determined at the monthly interagency coordination, and that is the 4 MPOs, DOT, Federal Highways, Federal Transit, and EPA are there on a regular basis. So those were, we had a very lively discussion at the Technical Advisory Committee on May 2nd. Then if you look at the page, the outline that says TAC minutes, page 2 of 3. And so section 4.2, amendment to prospectus recommendation to the policy committee for approval. So the process is that the technical advisory committee makes recommendations to you, the policy committee, as to what they think the best action should be. So you can see as we went through here that names are in here of some of the comments that we already had down here. We had a motion to not support. So then, after further discussion down here in the highlighted area, it says, the last sentence, Paul Lockwood, he's from the Department of Environmental Services, and I'm sorry, they do attend the interagency meeting as well, made the following motion. The Technical Advisory Committee recommends to the Policy Committee a 10 to 30-day comment period to the amendment itself, and the TIP will still have, so 10 to 30-day comment period for amendments, and the TIP would still, so if we're adopting the TIP, it would have a 30-day comment period. If it's an amendment to the TIP, there would be a 10 to 30-day comment period. So Chris Parker seconded that motion from Dover, and it was noted there was one opposed. All others were in favor, and the motion carried. So we had a compromise here where the way this reads is that for amendments, there would be the flexible 10 to 30-day comment period, but when there's an adoption of a new transportation program, that there would be a full 30-day comment period. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Now it's much clarified, much better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
One of the commenters indicated a question about how the decision was going to be made between the range between 10 and 30 days. Has that been codified any place?
That would be codified at the interagency level. So Federal Highways, Federal Transit, EPA, those are the federal participants. Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Services, and the MPOs are the MPO and state agencies. And so there's a discussion, and usually they come to a consensus agreement.
Thank you. So there is a process in place to determine
Yeah.
whether it's 10, whether it's 30, or someplace in between.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And right now, as you know, we do monthly minors, which have a process, and those are, I make a recommendation to the executive committee, and you concur with it. And those have definite guidelines as to what can be considered as a minor revision.
I would support the motion, but the recommendation from the TAC normally vote in difference to the recommendations. But I would like to hear what the DOT has to say about the merits of this.
Yeah, the merit is really to make sure that we can streamline this process. Because right now, because of the length of time, the 30-day, and having all the MPOs have 30 days and offset by a few weeks, that it ends up being a lot longer. And it just basically takes a long time to get this money approved through the STIP so we can get these projects out the door. So we basically would reduce the amount of time projects are delayed because of getting funding obligated. That's probably the big reason. And with the number of comments coming in, especially smaller amendments, we typically don't get comments, so we don't see the value in going for the 30 days. And again, it's by consensus between all the agencies can weigh in. So if somebody says, no, I really want a 30-day, it will go 30, go for the 30 days. But consensus-wise, they've been doing pretty well with be able to come in a shorter period.
So, is it, excuse me, is it my understanding if there's an amendment, it will go down to 10 days? But if there is no amendment, it'll be 30?
No, it would still be 10 to 30. It would be flexible 10 to 30 days.
For an amendment?
Yes,
But if there's no amendment, then it goes to 30 days, is that?
yes. So so sometime in the coming, in 2014, we're going to adopt a new transportation improvement program. And that would have a 30-day comment period because it's a brand-new document.
But if there's an amendment, you would think you would need more time to research the amendment, but now we're with an amendment, we're gonna cut it back to 10, but without an amendment, it's 30 days. That doesn't make sense.
Well, Glenn, if you could talk about the type of projects, but what happens with the delays, it can delay whether a project actually goes to construction.
Right. So basically, what these amendments do is allow us to actually obligate federal money. So I'm not sure, is everyone aware what this whole step process is that basically, when we do a project, we have to do is put a budget in the federal highway. So this is the money we want to budget for this project. They have to approve that budget. Once they approve that budget through this process to go in the STIP and going through the comment period, once federal highway approves it, then we can basically authorize that money to spend on a project. But while it's in that budget stage, we can't spend that money. So that can hold a project from going into construction or even being designed. That is a big delay for us. And especially when we have 4 MPOs, and the comment periods don't always start on the same day. It can be 2 or 3 weeks or a month difference. Adding 30 days, a lot of times this can stretch out, this whole process can be like 4 to 6 months. That's a long time to hold a project. But streamlining it down to 10 days and trying to coordinate the comment period between the MPOs, we can get this down to maybe a third of the time is our hope. And to answer your question, so when we adopt a new plan, it goes for the first 30 days. This is kind of the baseline. We're adopting all these projects like the new STIP. Then it goes for 30 days. So that really needs to be scrutinized. But small changes to it along the way, if the changes are small projects, then do we need the full 30 days? Or these are small changes, can we just get away with 10 days and get it out there and keep this process moving? And typically, there's usually not a lot of comments coming in. Most amendments, there is no comments. So, sometimes 2 or 3 times, maybe 1 or 2 a year. That's a small percentage of comments that hold up something 3 or 4 months. That's kind of our approach. But again, because that interagency has the ability, if Strafford says, no, this project's big to our area, we want the full 30 days, it goes to 30 days. But if all of them agree by consensus that we think 10 days is adequate, and everyone agrees on it, then they'll knock it down to 10 days. Or if they want 20 days or 15 days, it's flexible between there. So just giving that interagency a little bit of flexibility to maybe put the appropriate comment period with the amendment.
And who makes the determination, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30 days?
That's a consensus of the interagency committee, and again, that's the 4 MPOs, the DES, EPA, federal highways involved in there. So all the core people, it has to be a consensus to go to reduce it down from the 30 days.
Ed, can you give us an example of something that would get a 10-day and what would get a 20 and a 30? Just a small example.
Yeah, just maybe minor changes to schedules, money being moved between fiscal years, or projects maybe, just money moved around. That's kind of small. We're still going to do the project, just gets delayed a little bit or moved up. Or a bigger project, for example, in Nashua, we had the Capital Rail Corridor. Yeah, you need 30 days for that. There's no question. So when you get the big projects coming in, the 93, the Newton over, big changes, yeah, you may want to really get those 30 days in there. But small money just shifting around, projects being moved within the schedule, that can trigger a STIP amendment.
Is this in writing? Is the policy actually formed where you're following a procedure, or is it just haphazardly done?
I wouldn't say haphazard, but it's by consensus because there's no, the range of reasons projects are in the amendment is pretty big. So it's a group of projects, just not one project. So because of that, it really has to be kind of a consensus of all the projects. So I don't think there's a formula that says it's this, this, and this, and it goes here. I think it's really more consensus among the people.
Cynthia?
There's actually amendment procedures that all of the participants in the interagency coordination worked on back in the, I think it's somewhere in the range of 2002 to 2005. We worked on this together and put together procedures, and most of these should be shown in our prospectus, and we also have them as part of one of our tasks is following this and making, it's one of the tasks that we're charged with as an MPO is to have the amendment procedures in place and then to do amendments to those procedures just to address this question of how do you expedite project delivery? Because one of the things that the MAP 21 Highway Reauthorization Act asks the MPOs and the state DOTs to do, as well as the federal agencies, is to expedite project delivery. So that you don't miss a whole construction period because your advertising went out too late, and by the time you process the bids, you weren't able to do any construction that field season. So especially in our part of the world, there's constraints on what the construction season really is.
Yeah.
I guess my sense is given the fact that you get very few responses, it seems to me that some flexibility probably is warranted, but it would seem, and this is an amendment to our perspective, so if we decided a year from now that the process had been abused, we could always change our perspectives back, number one. And number two, I would feel better if the group came up with some sort of set of criteria that would say, if these are the characteristics, these are the kinds of, or some samples or examples of, these are the characteristics that would lend themselves to the shorter time period. These are the characteristics that lend themselves to the longer time period, and those that, so you're sort of setting out the extremes, because it just seems to me that what you don't want is this to be a way for somebody to do an end run. That somebody screwed up, and this is a quick way to kind of get it through the system without anybody knowing about it. So, but if there's some sort of criteria, and how official those criteria are, I don't know, but it would just be nice, because that way everybody's coming at it from the same page.
I really need to respond to that. So on page 25 of our prospectus under section 6.4, it's plan and TIP amendment procedures, and it defines what an administrative modification is, what an amendment is, what exempt means, what's an expedited project selection, information only, what's phasing, what's regionally significant. And then on section 6.4.2, it gives decision thresholds. So 6.4.21 is amendments. So on page 27, it tells you and what is a major administrative modification? What is an amendment? So what is interagency consultation, and how do you do dispute resolution? And this is what I was talking about, that we all work together on this. So this is here, it has a flow chart, it has a public involvement. So the section that we're looking at right now is the section about the public involvement, and the section right before that is about how we process what's coming before the interagency. So it is there, and I'd be glad to go through that with you. It was about a 1.5 to 2 year process to get this done so that we could all come to agreement.
Steve?
Excuse me. Well, Cynthia answered some questions that I just had, but as far as the expedited project delivery, and the DOT apparently doesn't have any of this information because it was stated that, you know, it's gonna be up to a consensus of any number of departments, and I just have a problem with trying to stymie public input.
All right, may I respond to that?
Go ahead, Cynthia.
All right, so the consensus is, we discussed the project at interagency, and maybe the MPO that is the home to this project believes that there's some concern in the community about the project, and they want to make sure there's a full public involvement period. So they would request a 30-day, and people would respect that because it's the site of the project. And so the decision then, the consensus decision then would be, we would have a 30-day. So if there's question, we err on the side of more time.
But why is the DOT not saying the same thing? They're saying that it's gonna be a consensus amongst other boards. The information that you just provided, I didn't hear this from the DOT.
What I was explaining was how we come to consensus at the interagency. So DOT describes the project and what it is that they want to do. And then Federal Highways or Federal Transit or EPA, whomever has concerns, DES, speaks up and provides information. The MPOs provide information. And if there's any party to that discussion that says, we have concerns and we would like a longer public involvement, then we come to a consensus. So that's what he was talking about with the consensus decision. So there's a process, but within that, we come to an agreement.
Steve, one more time.
The problem I'm having is when, I mean, it's fine if everyone, the consensus is 30 days, but like it's already been stated, you know, the problem is when it's being cut down to 10, because that is stymieing public input, and I have a problem with that. And it apparently doesn't sound like everyone's on the same page as what you're.
So you understand what I said?
I understand, but I'm
Okay.
still.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Yeah,
Sandy?
I guess I would just respond to, it clearly would reduce the amount of time available for public input, but on the basis of how little public input there has been in the past, I don't see this as stymieing it, but I still like the idea of the fact that if we do determine that this isn't working well, we can go back to where it is already. And I still, the piece that's new is the 10 to 30. So even with everything that's in the book, maybe there's, or that's already been developed, there might be a way for this group to sort of say, these are the kinds of things that lend themselves to the 10 days, these are the kinds of things that lend themselves to the 30 days, and the rest of them we'll discuss.
Sandy?
Well, maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but it seems to me that if there was a particular project in the Strafford regional area that you had concerns with, or any of your board members had concerns with, then you could propose
Yes.
the longer comment period.
Yes,
But
exactly.
if it's a project over in Claremont,
And
it's up to Claremont to worry about.
say there's
that,
a
right?
project in Nashua, and Nashua MPO staff say, we don't have a problem with it, then we listen very carefully to what the home MPOs.
And it's not just federal agencies or something else that are determining that time period? It's
Yes.
the local,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, I'm gonna,
And for the record, the prospectus was adopted September 27th, 2007, and so I was wrong. It probably took us 2002 to 7 to get it constructed.
And it's been updated April
Yes.
of 2014.
In May 2008, January 2010, December 2011, and then this one for April 2014. So.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing, and there's no more comments. And we'll move on. Staff communications. If staff has anything else, anything to discuss?
I'm just going to remind everyone that invites were sent out for our annual meeting, which is going to be held May 29th at the Madbury Town Hall, and we're going to have a wonderful menu and great speakers, so I hope you'll join us. I just wanted to know.
Thank you. Okay. Action items. Motion required for 4.1 item, draft the MPO minutes of March 21st, 2014. Is anyone, is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 21st?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Bill, seconded by...
Second.
Yep. All in favor, say, comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Dave,
Nay?
Abstain, I don't think I was here.
Okay.
So
abstain.
you're abstaining,
Abstain.
so just...
Two abstentions,
Two
okay.
abstentions, okay.
Okay, very good. Next item is 4.2, prospectus update, recommended by the TAC for approval. Is there a motion?
Chair, I'll make a
Kevin?
motion that we approve the prospective update with the request to the, what's the name of the group again? What's it?
Interagency.
Interagency group, that they develop at least internal criteria to help guide the decision-making process between the 10 and 30 days.
Second.
Seconded by Victoria. Comments? Motion to approve made, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, Steve opposed. All right. Thank you. Okay, item 5, discussion items. Grow America Act. Cynthia.
All right, so the Strafford Metropolitan Planning Organization, is a member of the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. It's a national group. And I am a member of the Technical Advisory Committee for that group. And so we've been very busy in the last 2 to 3 months working on the Highway Reauthorization Act from the perspective of metropolitan planning organizations. So we met for 2 days down in DC at their offices, and we had staff come in from the Senate committee and the House committees. We had federal highways and federal transit staff come in and speak to us, and so we're looking at the interests of the metropolitan planning organizations to ensure that we can do a better job providing services and getting projects done. So the first reauthorization act that came out was entitled the Grow America Act, and this is from the Obama administration. And it looks at this is the page here, and then there's a set of fact sheets. Now, did the fact sheets, did people get those? I put them in a pile?
Yeah, they're in there.
I just thought people could pass them around to look at. You can go online and go to the Grow America, and you can go online and look at it. So this is a 4-year reauthorization for over $72 billion. And it focuses on Fix It First and adding money into transit. So the fact sheet, there's about 13 different fact sheets, and they focus on different areas like transit, providing jobs, expediting projects, making environmental reviews happen in a more expeditious fashion. So this is one bill that's out there right now for the reauthorization. And then the second one just came out this week, and this is from the Senate committee, and they held a public hearing yesterday. And this is called the MAP 21 reauthorization bill. So the Obama one looks like this with the flag, or like this. You might have either one. And MAP 21 reauthorization one looks like this. So you should have both of these. So this one, normally a reauthorization bill is for 6 years. The MAP 21 was for only 2 years. It expires this September. So both the Senate and the administration want to get a reauthorization bill in place before the close of the fiscal year and the expiration of MAP 21. Our understanding is that the House is not interested in having this move forward at this time. So what it does is so this is from the Senate, and it's a reauthorization, and this is the summary. So it fully funds for 6 years, and of course the Highway Trust Fund runs out of money sometime in July, August, and so fixing the funding of the Highway Trust Fund and having a viable, sustainable source of funding is a priority for a lot of the consideration for any of the reauthorization bills. The MAP 21 from the Senate also looks at increasing support for core formula programs, which would be National Highway Performance, the Highway Safety Improvement, and the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality. Those are some of the ones that we receive funding from regularly. It focuses on freight and goods movement. It funds projects of national or regional significance. It requires that the Highway Trust Fund have transparency in how the dollars are funded. It accelerates project delivery and increases flexibility. And so, Steve, to go back to your questions, a lot of what Congress and the administration are looking at is how to get these projects out the door faster. It expands flexibility and opportunities for infrastructure in rural areas. And then it maintains the state and metropolitan planning functions as they work. So those are the two options that are under consideration right now. And so as we learn more about this, we'll provide updates to you. But some people think nothing will happen, and some others at the Senate level think they're going to be able to get something done. So we'll see what happens, but in the meantime, the Highway Trust Fund runs out this summer, so that will be an interesting process to get through. Do you want to add anything? Because I know you all are participating through ASHTO.
Yeah.
Ashton.
That's our, we should come up with the name, but it's basically, it's the transportation organization, state highway, I don't know exactly, I'm sorry about that. But that's a group we're working with, Federal Highway. I mean, our big concern right now is obviously the trust fund running short, and what's going to start happening is they're going to start to delay reimbursement to DOT. Because of our funding, we work on a very tight budget where we spend the money and then we submit to Federal Highway and usually reimburse within several days. And that money just kind of revolves as we pay our bills. If that starts getting delayed, we'll start looking now at delaying projects, delaying advertisement of projects, even stopping projects until we get through this period, because we got to make sure we can still pay our bills. So that's where our big focus is. And again, we're just waiting to see what's going to happen with this reauthorization. We just taking a wait and see what kind of approach, how much we can do with it. Yeah, so we will get interest in this summer if they start delaying reimbursements to us.
Comments or questions? Seeing none? Move on.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry,
No,
yeah.
I was last minute. Seriously, nobody has any comments or discussions about this bill at all? Nothing?
I think it's a great bill. The problem is, where's the money going to come from? So I could wish that it goes forward, but I just don't know, so I'm reluctant to say much right now.
So Victoria, then so it is in the back of your head that where is this money coming from?
It's in the back of my head that the country will make it, that Congress will make it a priority to do the spending that we need.
Any other comments?
As far as where's the money come from, where does all federal money come from? Taxpayers. That's where it's coming from.
It's printed because there is no money left. Now, I'm not saying that we can change that here, and believe me, I could start a conversation and I could go on for hours. And I understand projects have to get done and it's all important, but I don't know when, it's probably going to take the collapse of the whole transportation system to get anything changed, because bills have to get paid, but there's no money to do this.
Well, I think it's called an investment. I didn't buy a home without taking out a mortgage, which I'm paying off. And I, luckily enough, had a 0.0 mortgage on a car to get a car. And I just think you have to make an investment or life stops. I don't think you can say there's no more money and so we stop. I think you do have to take loans out. And I think the debt right now is as low as it's been in 8 years or something. So I am really not terribly upset about where we're going with this.
Any other comments, questions? All set?
I could talk about it for hours,
Okay.
so I'm not going to do it.
All right, moving right along, project update, the Mills Scenic Byway. Cynthia? Yeah.
This one on there.
My age old lady.
All right.
Okay, Cynthia, you're up.
So Kyle Comeau has been working on this, and he's at another meeting this morning, so I'll just summarize. I made some copies of this presentation so you can bring them along with you. And also, we have a copy of the press release. So, there were the New Hampshire Scenic Byways Council met May 8th or 9th? May 8th, I think, last week. And they approved 3 new scenic byways, 2 of which are in our region. The first one is the Upper Lamprey, which is in Northwood, and Victoria's been participating in that. So we will do a program that showcases the Upper Lamprey Scenic Byway. And how many miles is that?
I don't even know. Shrunk compared to
But
what
it's
it really-
Deerfield, Candia, and Northwood. All right. And it's accessible from Route 4 or Route 101. This one that we're looking at today is the Mills Scenic Byway, and it is for the towns of Newmarket, Durham, Madbury, and Rollinsford, and it's along Route 108 and Route 4. There's 12 miles, and the theme is early settlement patterns and historic mill buildings. So if you look at the map there, and starting in Newmarket, you can see that this road crosses the Lamprey, then it crosses the Oyster, it crosses the Cochico, the Bellamy, and the Salmon Falls. So all of those rivers were some of the first places in our region way long, when it wasn't a region, but back in the times when This was the frontier, and for European settlement, people were coming up through the ocean, up through the Piscataqua River and up into Great Bay and Little Bay, and then going up the mouths of the river as far as they could go, and starting to do different kinds of activities. So we had sawmills and grist mills and shipbuilding. So that was sort of the first era, and then we moved into the Industrial Revolution area when the larger mill buildings, like on the first page, if you go back to that. So these are the mills in Newmarket, and these were actually built in the mid-1800s by German stonemasons. The history is that the owners paid $5,000 more to get granite rather than brick. So that's one of those investments you were talking about. So 200 years later, the $5,000 paid off people go forward. So we went through the whole Industrial Revolution area where the Cochico mills developed, the Rollinsford mills developed. Durham was in the prior era, didn't get into the mill so much because the Oyster River is such a smaller draft for a boat coming up through there. So we went through that time period, which went all the way into the 20th century. And now all of these mills in every one of the towns is redeveloping, and so we have new businesses and people living in the mills, and so they're core for strengthening the central business district. So this is looking at a celebration of the coast, looking at the 5 coastal rivers and how this route passed through and over all of these rivers and connected each of these towns and their activities together during various time frames. Go to the next. So to put this into, link it to other regional scenic byways, there's the coastal byway, which is the blue one, out on the coast, and that runs from Route 108 from Portsmouth to Seabrook, and then 1B from Portsmouth, Rye, and Newcastle. I'm sure all of you know those roads. The Independence Way is 21 miles, and it runs along Route 27, 108, 107, and 1, and it goes through Exeter, Hampton, Kensington, and Hampton Falls, and I'm sure you all have driven on Route 27 or 108 down in that part and know how pastoral and area that is. So what we're looking at in the green is a potential connection from the Independence Way, which ends at the Independence Museum in Exeter, and it would connect up through Newfields and Exeter to 108 and Newmarket. And then our colleagues in Southern Maine, long-term goal is to connect down to the coast again so that we have a very large loop with different choices to make. And so the one in Maine would go through South Berwick, York, Elliott, Kittery, and connect down in Portsmouth. So that's where we are right now with these sort of seacoast, coastal area byways. And now we're part of it as the Mill Scenic Byway, so it's part of that large link. So why is this important? Originally, we were working with communities in Dover, Rollinsford, and Newmarket about how can they redevelop their mills. And so designating a scenic and cultural byway is a way to brand yourself. And so we just did some simple examples of branding logos that you could look at to enhance tourism and economic development, getting the people coming in on the weekends, holidays who want to drive along this route and stop for lunch, stop for dinner, take a tour of UNH, take a tour of a brewery, go buy a bike in Newmarket, visit the library up in Rollinsford. So this is what it's all about, is to enhance tourism-based businesses. We will be doing community outreach and engagement and establishing a corridor management plan, which we do with any of our planning work along a highway. We go out a quarter mile on each side and collect information about it. So, so we're going to be looking for volunteers who are going to develop this community-based plan. And our role now that this has been designated is just to convene the meetings and help communities get their volunteers appointed to it and start the process and help move it along by providing map and data. But from now on, it's up to the communities to decide what this is going to look like and how it's going to work. So this is part of the process that we went through for the nomination and the inventory. So the idea is to plan for a quality visitor experience. And so you want to know what the road signs are and what kind of service there is. But, you know, is it congested? Is it free-flowing traffic? Are there conservation lands? Are there parks? Are there any safety factors so we know where there might be incidents for traffic or other types of safety issues? We gathered community support and we demonstrated the regional significance for each resource. So you can see in Newmarket there's a fishing weir. It's the only fishing weir in the entire state. And in the last month, the person that does this rebuilt the weir, and it's completely redone, and he put it in last week. It's a little lopsided right now, but it's the fishing weir, the alewives are running right now, and so it's a really good time to come down to these coastal rivers and see what's happening in the springtime, because the alewives running was a big part of who we were back in the 17 and 1800s. Skipping down a bit, the General John Sullivan House is part of this on Durham. It's right on the route, and there's a monument there. And then we get over into Madbury, where they have historic homes along the route, and then into Rollinsford, where their entire mill district is exactly as it was designed and built in the early 1800s. So this gives you an idea and flavor of everything that's along this route. So we started this 3 years ago. We made fast progress. So based on, we approached communities because at that time we'd been hearing from the communities is they needed a way to market themselves and they wanted more people coming to their downtowns. And so we said, well, what about this scenic byways? Would this work? And so we got some support for that concept, and we started working on the nomination document in 2012. And we submitted it to DOT in September of 2012. And then in last November, we received conditional approval. We were missing having a public hearing. So we held the public hearing in Durham in January at their brand new library, which was very fun. And last week we were given formal designation. So now we have the press release, and we're starting to advertise the byways designation and soliciting for volunteers, and then establishing an advisory team, and then start work on the management plan and marketing, outreach, and figuring out, you know, how do we market the mills as who we are as part of this region and attract people in to spend their dollars having a good time up here. So we're all done with American Idol coming to Durham, so now we have to depend on the scenic byways. Good job, Alex Preston, getting attention to the region, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Ken, go ahead.
Just, when you look at the red, is there a reason why Dover isn't included? Lots of mills there.
Dover opted not
Dover
to
being
be
Dover.
included in the process.
Oh.
It was Tony's fault.
We marched to a different direction.
And so at the city council level, they thought that they were doing a good job already marketing and doing outreach, so they opted that they didn't see it would add anything.
If they decide to change their mind later
They
on?
could.
They always can?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's kind of like the philosophy we take with membership dues.
Okay, any other questions? Oh,
Cynthia, the makeup of the advisory committee, would you like to see some of the businesses that were on the route involved more, or public officials? If I pitch this at town council, what kinds of folks would you like to see go on?
Well, it needs to be somebody who really has a passion for this and sees where this could go long term. So it could be a business person, it could also be a volunteer or somebody, like in Durham, there's a lot of historic sites right along there from the earliest period that aren't as visible as the mills, but if you get down by the Oyster River, you can really see the original
So like
buildings.
a designee from the Historic District Commission, for example, might be appropriate. That's
Yeah, and it's not just one, you know, if you have a couple of people, we're open to, however, it's going to be a little bit, whoever is interested, they can participate.
And the role that we're pitching is to plan how this is going to.
Yes, they're going to work on the corridor management plan and marketing outreach and figuring out signage.
Tony.
It's a great photo, by the way.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's Newmarket.
Yeah.
Dover's got some.
We would have been called a brick state if they hadn't chosen the brand.
Yeah, see, what would it look like at, yeah, $5,000 made the difference. I'm impressed.
Cynthia, it says here under nomination process by the byway resource inventory, it says here, a comprehensive inventory of resources and services will be completed as part of the corridor management plan process. When you say comprehensive inventory of resources, what does that mean?
There's actually a set of information, and we erroneously were told that we needed to have the corridor management plan done before we applied. So we actually have done quite a bit of the collection of the data, but it looks at these resources here. So we went in, we looked at cultural, historic, scenic, recreation. We collected information on traffic incidents. We collected all the stop signs, traffic lights. Essentially what we would do if we were doing a corridor study. So if you come into our office and you look at the Route 125 corridor study, it's essentially the same. We collected conservation lands, we have all the background information on floodplains, everything, you know, that we do in a normal process. But this one adds the recreation, scenic, cultural, that's a different one. And most of this has been done, but we're open to adding more. Like Durham has asked to include a loop that would go into the downtown, and you could see the university in the downtown, Church Hill, so that you get more of the flavor of the history.
You only get one lane, so you have to slow down.
Is this somehow connected with the resource inventory? Is it connected with at the town level, the natural resource inventory? Is any of that information shared?
Yeah, it's similar to that. So
Is it shared, though?
Yeah. So back in the late 90s, we went out through, all the regional planning commissions had a grant from Department of Environmental Services, and they went through and collected cemeteries, graveyards, historic homes, recreation sites, and then after we did that, we did a natural resources inventory. So that was back in the days when GIS wasn't quite as robust as it is now, right, Glenn? Yeah. So a lot of it was collected by hand and edit into the system, and a lot of these resources are already in attribute layers in GIS, if I said that right, Glenn?
You said it right.
Okay, so yes, it's very similar. So we would use natural resources, and we would use the other historic cultural layers.
Sorry. The planning boards, how are the planning boards involved with the board that decides the management of those areas? Meaning if the managers or the boards of the scenic byway decide that there's a resource that's part of the byway, how does the planning board and their decisions, how are they involved with that? I think some towns have had issues with that issue because they feel that it kind of, traps the planning board in making their decisions about those areas. I don't know if I made myself clear, but.
Yeah, you are. I don't know how to respond to it because it doesn't constrain a planning board. I know I keep saying this, but I don't seem to deliver it in the words that are comprehensible. So, it's another flavor. It's about economic development and tourism. It's a specific component of economic development, and we have it in spades here. We have historic and scenic recreational resources. That's why people move here, live here, and come to school here, and come here on weekends. So this is just to help people go on the internet, see that this exists, and say, why don't we make a drive up there and do this loop? It's a nice day. I do the same thing. I go up to Maine and I make a loop and I have lunch at a place and then I drive the rest of a loop and I stop at a store and buy something or look around and, it's a nice afternoon. That's what the purpose of this is to attract people.
I have an example. In Northwood, if the planning board is doing a site plan application and it turns out that there's a property on before that wants to change its use, and it in particular is an historic house, has an interesting business it wants to put in, the planning board will know that it's on this map, but there's nothing regulatory about it. It's just it's information about a property. But there's nothing that the planning board is going to do, it's going to impose, it's going to affect that property.
Yes.
It's
What if there's some
a
confusion?
crucial
Isn't there,
distinction, and you look like you disagree with that.
isn't there is provision for a community to establish a road?
A scenic road?
As a
That's
s-
different.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
as a scenic road, and
Yeah.
that, if the community does that, it places certain constraints on what
Yes.
happens. So I'm wondering if maybe people are confusing that. I mean, the word scenic is used in both, but I'm wondering, because that does have some regulatory implications.
Yes,
I mean, it's
it
done by
does.
the community, so presumably, the community will do it if they don't want to do it. But, so I'm wondering if maybe there might be some confusion there.
Well, I think there probably is confusion there. Absolutely, because it's not.
Yeah, thanks, Ken, that helps clarify it. So you can go to the RSA and see what the constraints are on a scenic road. Yeah, said that right, yeah.
Anything else? Seeing none, move on to 6.2. Greg, SADES.
All right, so I've just got a quick update on the statewide asset data exchange system. We made some huge strides on Wednesday. We went up to New Hampshire DES and met with the folks at the Geological Survey and Technology Transfer Center, and managed to formulate a game plan to integrate the New Hampshire Geological Survey's culvert inventory program with the SADES culvert program, which is mainly DOT data that they would like collected as well. So we've got trainings set up for the T-square training for the tablet. We're using a collecting system or an application called Collector And so all of the DES data and the SAVES data will be melded together and integrated into this, tablet that our interns will be able to go out actually in the field and collect data and cut out all of the paper. So we've got training set up for that, and geological surveys training on the 6th. So we're off the ground. And we've actually been interviewing for interns over the last couple of weeks, and we have made our selections, and we're going to be having them sometime May 27th, I believe. So.
You can meet them at the annual meeting.
Ken?
I just hadn't heard that acronym before. What does SADES stand
It's
for?
the statewide asset data exchange system. So it's an effort through DOT and DES to basically standardize attributes that we're collecting at these different state assets. So whether it's guardrails or sidewalks or culverts, eventually they're all going to be into this system that can be accessed by all public officials and state agencies. So.
Oh, go ahead.
One follow-up question. I think it was last year or the year before, there was some confusion on the part of a resident someplace about whether people were on private property or on public property. Do we have a protocol in place so that our employees are protected in case people don't understand where the edges of
We actually,
property lines are?
that was one of the conversations that we had on Wednesday. There was a driveway attribute. Is this a driveway? Is it on private property, public property? And we all sort of came to the consensus that we don't want to be on private property at all. And I brought up that, issue from Summersworth last year, and everybody's on the same page as far as staying off private property. So that's something that maybe Glenn can speak to. I don't know if you've got anything else to add or not.
Yeah, I just, we described the program, but coming from my perspective, working with data collection and GIS and asset management for 20-some years of my life, what this SAVES program is all about is basically collecting like our what I call like roadside attributes, like our guardrails, our culverts, our sidewalks, curb ramps, on a statewide basis. This is the only state that even come close to doing this, because right now, the communities collecting like culverts for their own purpose. We have DOT that had 2 or 3 collection efforts going on for different purposes, looking at culverts, like looking for the pipe joints, but other people are just collecting them for environmental purposes and for permitting. We have DES collecting them for their work. We had Trout Unlimited collecting them for the fish. And everyone's collecting the same information over and over and over and storing it in separate silos. What this does is coordinates all those efforts into one. And what we did is we got all these groups together, all the stakeholders, and said, okay, what are the core information we want to collect that we all can agree to collect, and let's standardize on what we're collecting and how we're collecting it. And it's amazing that people are coming asking to join this. And so we have multi-agencies, regional planning commissions all joining, we have communities, we have private sector coming in and agree to this one criteria, but then be able to expand it onto other criteria. For example, the core data that we have is more around culvert collection and the management of the culverts. Then DES has their environmental piece added onto it. So you can collect the core and some additional information. I thought was really amazing coming on Wednesday was DES actually agreed to adopt some of the core information that we need into their process. So if they're out collecting it, they're going to collect the core plus and store it in one place and accessible to everybody through one location. And so this is the first time anywhere in the country that this is actually come together and start to work. So it's a pretty big accomplishment. Maybe everyone has an appreciation, but it's big.
I agree. I think it's a very good idea. But the issue that you mentioned was the fact that some interns had come down and they discussed an issue with a culvert or a drainage, and the landowner said it was on his property and they were trespassing. They just didn't know.
The landowner, it turned out the landowner didn't know. Right.
I was getting to that, yes. There's confusion on who owns what. A lot of landowners, I'm on the Rochester Planning Board for the last 14 years.
Come to the center now.
And we frequently get people that think, exactly as Steve said, that they own right to the edge of the road, when actually they don't. It's so many feet from the center of the road. At the same time, not all roads are in the center. Sometimes they're off to one side and there's one more paper road. It's lack of knowledge. When you're sending interns out, they should have a briefing as to where exactly these culverts are, where the property lines really are, and the right-of-ways. And when they speak to a landowner, possible landowner,
Yep.
they shouldn't use phrases like, well, I'll speak to DOT, or give any hint to being authority, just
Right.
collecting data.
Yeah, I guess we're trying to give them some boundaries, question is if there's ditches coming alongside the road and there's culvert going under the driveway, that's part of the municipal estate system because it's part of our road management. Then you can kind of explain it to them, but our guidance to them, so we're going to explain what's private and what's not, and basically if you're unsure, stay away from it. And if you are addressed by a landowner, just apologize and just say, oh, we're just doing this, to help the town out. Thank you, and just move on. We don't want to get any conflicts. If people, we can come back and get it later or something, or when the culvert's not.
That was the issue. There was some interaction that was,
Yeah.
to be fully correct, unpleasant.
Yeah, and so as part of the training, we did address that last time. So part of the training the T-Square is putting on is going to try to address that and give them some information and how to handle that situation. Because we don't want any conflicts, and we want to make sure they can explain what they're doing and why. If the landowner doesn't buy it or still is adamant, we just move on.
Right. Like I said earlier, I
Yeah.
think it's a real good idea.
And it's,
Just real quick, the issue actually it wasn't a trespass issue. The owner wasn't worried about us trespassing. He thought that the city was out collecting data to replace the culvert, and that's what actually happened. They had an interaction between the city and the landowner about this culvert, which has some problems. So I think that was what the issue was. But and I can speak to the crossing locations. We are no longer required to create that shapefile for the national hydrography data layer and the roads layer. That is something that's going to be done at DES, at the Geological Survey. So we can certainly ask them to flag some of those areas that might be concern areas.
great point, Joe.
Okay, any other comments, questions? If not, any other business? Anyone else have any business they want to discuss? None? Okay.
I just
Oh,
would-
I'm sorry.
In April, we got, from the Federal Transit and Federal Highway, we got our yearly directives for what we're to be, the emphasis areas. And so under MAP 21 implementation, they're talking about transition to performance-based planning and programming. So the SAVES program that we were just discussing is exactly what they want to see us doing. And then the second area is models of regional planning cooperation. So collecting the data, one brownie point, doing it in a way that's collaborative and you have the same standards everywhere, another brownie point. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing to move forward. So we're on track.
Great. Just one more shout out for big part of this process really was initiated by Cynthia and Greg in the T-Square and DOT. The three of us got together, and I think these hit the RPC and MPO level that Cynthia and Greg have really been championing this, and it's made a big difference. So I want to give them a shout out that they're the key players behind this whole
Say
program.
that as compared to other planning commissions, they're standing out?
They're coming on board. A couple came on board real quick. Other ones are, but again, this is change.
Yeah.
How do we handle it? But Cynthia and Greg definitely saw the insight that how this could really make a difference, and so they are championed that way. So big shout out to them for doing that for us.
Thank you.
So next time, figure out a way you can make it proprietary so we can make money on it.
Duly noted.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
By Ken?
Citizens forum.
Huh?
Give it citizens forum.
Yeah, but I looked around, there was no,
Just figured you mentioned it.
no. Motion by Ken, seconded by
I'll second it again.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?